Our guest on this segment is Katy Smith with LifeShare Donor Services. Katy, it's good to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me.
You were here, you heard the interview with the two ladies. What do you think about, I mean, to me that's a miraculous thing with the markers matching that way from two totally different strangers, really.
Yes, I completely agree. We hear all the time that individuals are waiting for a kidney, and 35 people from their family have gone and tried to see if they were a match, and their family members weren't even a match. So for them to be complete strangers and to be a perfect match, the odds are, I can't even tell you what the odds are.
Tell the folks at home what you guys do at LifeShare.
So LifeShare is in charge of organ donation in the state of Oklahoma. We actually work on the deceased side of donation. So when you register on your driver's license to be a donor and say something were to happen to you, you pass away, we come in and we recover organs if you are a suitable donor, and then we provide those organs to the transplant centers for transplant into the waiting patients.
Quick question. I'm out of state. I'm out of Oklahoma. I have a wreck in Texas. I'm killed. They look at my driver's license. Would they understand what that heart means?
So there are organ procurement organizations across the nation. Some states have one, some have three, and the organ procurement organizations like LifeShare are in charge of the donation, the deceased donation side. So if you were to pass away in Texas, even though you're from Oklahoma, they would pick up the phone and they would call us. And they would say, we have this gentleman from Oklahoma, is he on the registry? And we would provide that information.
So the states are able to communicate based on the driver's license.
Correct. And we all work together because all of our goal is to save lives through donation.
Fantastic.
There's no competition or anything like that.
This business of transplants has changed so dramatically in the last 15 years especially. What's off limits? What is not transplanted now?
Well, that's a very good question. You hear all the stories, you read the stories about them transplanting, trying new transplants. People are getting face transplants now. I met a little boy probably 2 years ago that had hand transplants from past his wrist, and his hands are working. You hear them trying to transplant a little bit of everything. So the things that we do know that are transplantable are all your organs, because you can save up to 8 lives through organ donation, which is your heart, your lungs, kidneys, intestines, pancreas, liver. That's 8 lives that can be saved.
Are the waiting lists long?
We have currently nationwide, we have about 114,000 individuals waiting for a life-saving transplant.
It would strike me that there would be no hesitation on anyone's part to step up. I mean, if you're gone, you're gone.
Right.
And you might be able to benefit any number of people. With 2 kidneys, there are 2 folk. With a heart, there's a third if you haven't abused it too much.
Yeah.
Perhaps a lung, part of a liver, or maybe parts of livers.
You can separate a liver, yes.
Exactly, and the list goes on. Ligaments, tendons.
Yes,
Can the
tissue.
Well, the pancreas can go too, can't it?
Yes, kidney, pancreas.
So you can help so many people.
Yeah, you can help. So one donor can help up to 8 individuals through organ donation, but through tissue donation, which is the skin, ligaments, tendons, bones, up to 75 individuals can be helped through tissue donation.
Of course, I've known Kelly, my wife, and I've known her for quite some time, but because I eat a lot of raw hamburgers.
That's a good place.
But I have a friend who's a Vietnam vet who underwent a kidney transplant, and he heard the magic words, well, it pinked right up, from the doctor. I have another friend who's undergone ligament and transplants, and I have another friend who's had surgery to replace ligaments in his hand. The other friend was in his foot, and it just seems to be a common thing. But there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
The matching is what matters, isn't it?
There's several factors, especially with organ donation, not as much with tissue donation. But with organ donation, there's several factors that they look at to match the organ to the recipient. Mainly, those things include blood type. They include the size of the organ. So for instance, if a large man is donating an organ, that cannot be placed in a small child. It would not fit. Also, they look at how long the person's been on the waiting list and how ill they are, like the urgency of them needing that transplant. So there are several different factors that go into play when matching, but there is a national waiting list that is managed based on those factors.
And ironically, a lot of folks forget this, but you can also give someone the ability to see.
Yes, eye
I
donation.
mean, that's astounding to me. That I mean, I can partially understand an organ transplant, but to be able to see.
Yeah, here in Oklahoma, we can recover corneas, which actually a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to donate my eyes. A lot of people feel uncomfortable with that, but really it's just the lens part of your eye, like a contact lens. We don't recover the entire eye, and so that allows people to have eye transplants to regain their vision.
What one element do you all find is the biggest reason for folks saying no, I don't want to donate?
There are a handful, and so if I can touch on two of them.
Sure.
So the first one, people think that if they register and they have an accident, that the doctors will not work to save their lives because they would want them to be organ donors. And this is completely not true. This is against doctors' ethical practice. So the team that is working on an individual to save their life after an accident is a complete different team from the donation team. And so the donation team is not even contacted until death is imminent. They have either been declared brain dead or the family has decided to withdraw support because they're not going to have quality life. So those are two separate teams. The doctors working to save your life do not even have access to the registry. The second myth.
That's pretty amazing to me that in this day and age, they would choose to buy into that sort of thing. But
Right.
I'm sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
and that would be a complete conflict of interest for the doctors, and the doctors do not want to put themselves in that situation. The second thing is a lot of people rule themselves out for various reasons, as I'm too old, or oh, I'm too sick, or they wouldn't want any of my body parts. And the truth be told, we just suggest if you're a giving person and you want to help people, register and let the medical professionals make that decision. Because we've had our oldest donor in the state of Oklahoma was an 86-year-old.
No kidding.
And he gave a liver, and his recipient is doing well and living life. So don't rule yourself out.
What are some of the other ones? And I've got a reason for asking this. What are some of the other reasons?
Some people think that the cost of donation, they don't want to burden their family with the cost of donation, but actually LifeShare covers all expenses associated with donation after the patient has been declared dead.
You know, one of the wonderful things about this thing we call the internet is it allows us to communicate with virtually anyone. And the downside to me of this magical thing called the internet are all the conspiracy theorists that are out there. Oh, they're coming in here, they're stealing children to harvest their body parts, is one of those theories. And that one popped up about 5 years ago and was rampant. And in some South American countries, they claimed that Americans were down there harvesting children to bring back here for transplants. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, that's completely illegal.
Boy, no kidding.
Yeah, completely illegal. So that could never happen. The black market, they talk about that. It's completely illegal to sell body parts. So no, that's not happening. Another one that is very common is, well, I want to have an open casket funeral.
Oh, well, dude, duh.
Yeah, and we have great partnerships with our funeral homes across the state. And so even though organ donation is a surgical procedure, we work very hard with the funeral homes to prepare the family's loved ones so that they can have an open casket funeral.
Well, I've decided Oh, I better not get into this because I offend people so many different ways, and I rather enjoy it. I kind of like this isolation.
Well, it's kind of easy to do nowadays.
It is. Oh, I'll take umbrage at that. But it seems like if you have skin that could be used for a burn victim,
Right.
why aren't you signing up? If you have an eye situation, if you can see, if you can hear,
Right.
sign up. I don't understand, you know, what is it James Dean used to say, live fast, die young, and leave a pretty corpse. But why in the world would anybody say no when they could help so many folks out of ego?
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah. But the good news is that there was a survey done in 2012, and 95% of Americans do agree with donation. That does not mean that 95% of Americans are registered, but they do support and agree with donation.
See, there's hope for this country
There
after
is.
all.
In Oklahoma, we have 61% of our state registered, which is higher than the national average. And I'm not surprised because Oklahomans are very giving, our community is very giving, and I think that goes right back to the stories of the young ladies that were sitting here, and it reinforces that we're a giving community and we want to help people.
And just remember, now is the time, or when you next renew your driver's license. Katie, thank you for driving over from Oklahoma City.
No problem.
I appreciate you more than you'll ever know.
Glad to be here.
And on your way back, watch the weather.
Is this supposed to be bad?
Oh, duh.
I have not even paid attention.
Pay attention.
I will do that.
That's
Thank
all
you.
the time we have for this edition of Perspectives. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.